Today I'm going to talk about the last day before the 222, what I did in the last day before 222 and what I did when 222 came out, right? I fired up Overwatch again. I had to update through 2 patches, and I went to LFG to find a team that wanted to only play GOATs. And I did that because it was to be the last hurrah, not to brag, but my job means that I probably objectively know more about GOATs than many other players in the game. And GOATs is a composition I really enjoy playing as a player. You don't die easily in that composition. Everything is about ultimate usage and everyone is always shooting someone else. So this footage is recorded from my Zion that day. The first team we met in quick play was the Sombra GOATs team. So that was another team trying to get in one last game in the soon-to-be bygone era. The Sombra wasn't very good. It was unfortunate because you generally want to be pocketing Sombra and making sure she farms EMP as fast as possible, right? In 90 seconds, in 80 seconds. But her team didn't really help her and she just wasn't very good, right? But you could see everyone was having fun because, yeah, people was getting out ultimates really quickly. People were killing people. A lot of skirmishes, a lot of fun fights. So anyway, that was what happened in the last day before 222. So what do I think of 222? Well, I think this is an awesome patch, right? Because gone are the times where you get 5 DPS in your team. That was really frustrating. Sometimes you get 4 tank players and the other 2 are NR mains and you get no DPS on your team whatsoever. And in a rare case, but equally frustrating, is to watch mediocre DPS players just play against the enemy DPS that rightfully deserves their rank. And this is a good patch. I think this is like the best patch in like the last year or so. Brigitte got changed to something better. It's less about her being a tank, being able to survive anything against anything you throw at her, and more about being a support. The shield change is on point. I feel 200 HP shield means she can't move wherever she wants and proceed to like retreat, shielding up and laughing at you. Now if you want to, you could break her shield and you could focus her down within a much smaller time frame. We also have Reinhardt with the anti-CC changes, and there was of course one of the biggest change, that was the ultimate charge rate nerf. I think you now get ultimates 12% slow if I'm not wrong. And that's a step in the right direction because, see, there was always the promise of a scissors paper stone meta in Overwatch, right? For tank, support, and DPS, you have Brigitte that counters dive, you have Moira that sort of survives and counters dive, you have rush and dive compositions that counters Orisa bunker. And that's essential Overwatch, right? Where you get to swap out characters to counter the enemy compositions. What stopped that concept, or what really made it hard for that concept to truly blossom, was ultimate charge. Because ultimates were so game-changing, even if you swap out to counter the enemy composition, the fact that you lose ultimate charge doing so was bad. So let's say that the enemy has like 3 outs, right? And the composition you're playing just isn't good enough to beat the enemy team. Your team switches to a totally different composition, and now you guys have 0 ultimate charge. Let's say you need to switch all 6 characters, right? It's not the best example, but I think it will do. The enemy uses 2 outs out of 3 outs to beat your composition, and your composition is stronger, but ultimates are stronger than the counter composition. So by beating your compositions with 2 outs, the other characters in the enemy team acquires their ultimates. Now they have 4 outs. This continues for a while, and this process is known in the professional scene as getting cycled by ultimates. And players just say we are getting cycled, blah blah blah. That's why the nerf to ultimate was needed, because the end goal is to make sure that you can switch composition and not get punished by people gaining an out of other people out within like a single fight, or at least not at the current rate. So you still want ultimates to be fun and game winning, you just don't want everyone to gain outs so fast to make the concept of counter composition bad. So in my example, the enemy has 3 outs, right, and you change to a counter composition, they need to use 2 outs to win. But the other 3 players now in the enemy team wouldn't have their ultimates from that one fight because it's slower, right? And now you have a shot. It's 1 out to 0 out for the second fight. Now if you fuck that up again, your team sucked. At least in fight 3, it's now 6 outs to 3 outs because you took 2 fights to build outs, right? Let's say instead of 1 fight now, you take 2 fights to build out. And now your composition is stronger because, your composition is stronger and you have more outs than them. The main gist of it is that you get a game that's less reliant on ultimates and more about making the right swaps mid-game. And I've started to see a little bit of that in my ranked games, but I can see people not knowing what to switch to still, Like people still think that like being an insane Genji is enough to beat a Moira break. And maybe it is. If you're like a DK level Genji, right? You're like an Overwatch League level Genji, maybe it is. But the problem is you would need to be like a GM Genji to beat a Diamond counter composition, because the threshold of mechanical skills needed to win will be a lot higher if you decide to
blindly charge into a composition that you're being countered by. So the current meta is really trying to promote flexible DPS and supports, and I really think that is the way it should be.